What's going on, everybody? John out here with you. It is Thursday, August 14th, 2025. How's everybody doing out there today? Now, you're going to see some of those initial really briefly in that intermission before we get into the loading and all of that for the times and dates of this release. So, this version, PS4 and Switch, was in 2019, although this game initially came out in 2007 on the Nintendo Wii. This is nothing more than an expanded port. So if you're playing this on the PS5 or the Switch 2, do not expect any re-enhancements. If you're looking to see what type of game this is, they're going to show that a little bit later in the gameplay, but this is a roguelike. You go from procedurally random generated dungeons to get better equipment, and then you go to the forge, improve your equipment, do a little fishing, get more storage. Use different items to be able to kill enemies, and in this one that makes it unique in comparison to other Chocobo's dungeon games or Tornado games, if you're thinking about World of Dragon Warrior, or the one that was pretty famous from the Super Nintendo that I can't think of the name of because I never played it, but it's got about 8 or 9 different iterations. If you like procedurally random generated dungeons, roguelikes, and you want to play in the Final Fantasy world, you want to play as Chocobo, this might scratch all of those itches. Now, initially, I think this game is still $40 either on the store within PS4, PS5, or Switch. I got this when it was on sale during one of those time sales, digitally only, honestly, because it's really hard to get a physical release of, and it was about $15. So take that for what it is. It's definitely worth $15 and it's enjoyable, but anything full price, I'm going to say probably isn't as good as some of the previous iterations. So let me just say this before I get into the gameplay. So my first iteration to this series ever was the 1998 Christmas release of Chocobo's Dungeon 2 on the original PSX. I know those graphics were digitized. This one's more cartoony and cutesy, but I thought it got the job done. I thought the music was excellent. Again, you did get to play with a partner character when you got through certain parts of the dungeon, and so you could play with Mog to help out Chocobo, or Sherma or White Mage, or Sid, the Machinist, or some of the other ones there. This one is pretty interesting because you have a lot more characters to choose from, and everybody essentially is your buddy character that you can walk around. You can also play this 2 players on the same console with another controller, as it would be in the older games, which is cool. But you actually get to recruit a monster character with you to take once you get more XP, or the initial characters. And then when you get into the select screen, which I'm going to show you here in a little bit, just getting some fishing to get more storage space. You can do that to kind of pass the time if you're getting tired of traversing through the dungeons. That you can go ahead and see what type of skills your partner character has to flesh out your job system for Chocobo. So think about this game like you would in any Final Fantasy from initial release. You know, there's been, 16 of them now, Final Fantasy 16 with Ben Star. Again, I showed the demo of that on the channel, but I didn't release the full game, but I told you it was fantastic. It still is. I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy fan. I like the spin-offs more than anything else. This kind of fits everything with the exception of FF7. Obviously, that's my favorite. I'm more of a Dragon Warrior. But think about it from all the job titles from then. Whether it be Fighter, Warrior, Mage, Black Mage, White Mage, Black Mage, Red Mage, all that. That's what Chocobo can do. And as you level up his job points, that allows him to get other specific skills. So you can change into Ninja or Machinist. Lots of different stuff there. So that's the one little quirk in this game that's different from the other roguelikes that you'll see, is the job system and who you can bring with you to play 2 players. Is there really any specific snags and on the gameplay that we can talk about? Honestly, no. It's as you take a step, you can see it on a grid if you hold the square button or anything else on the PS4, that a white grid's going to pop up. Every time you take a step or you do an action, that is 1 turn. And then the enemy off screen or not is going to take their turn after you take yours, unless you have some kind of haste to speed you up or slow on them, which is an extra turn for you and 1 less for them. But they'll go as you go. So initially, what makes this nice in the part of the pre-planning when you play a game like this is you can kind of map out your strategy. If you get overwhelmed by enemies, essentially you don't need to pause the game. You can go into the menu, but it gives you time to think about what you want to do, which is pretty cool that way. And then grind a little bit when you need to, and then bring in different job skills. Like I like using the Black Mage. You get all of the best skills. You can kind of hit them from 3 tiles away. When you get into a den of monsters, sometimes that happens, just like in any other games like Tornico or the old Chocobo's dungeons, that you can get overwhelmed. Then you can find yourself to either use some items or, depending on some spells, to be able to flush out the rest of the enemies that are around you to give you more space to breathe. Now here's some initial tips when you're playing games like this. So in the early dungeons, you can feel free to walk around and move around. You can equip different stuff, whether it be your talon, which will be what Chocobo will kick with to attack, or a saddle, which you'll use to be able to defend yourself. And then you have your backpack that you'll get more space. As you're talking about Fat Chocobo there to the left side, when you bring in more fish, he gives you more storage space. And then you see for the initial saddles or talons that they'll have little black circles underneath them. That tells you how many specific effects you can equip to a weapon. Now, the most that I've seen initially from setting up this review was 7. I was using a saddle and a talon was 6. I found 7. I'm assuming when you go into the descript screen that there can be up to 8 spots that you can use. So when you find a saddle that you like, and you want to make sure that it has, like, you carry more gil or get more XP, or your weapons don't rust, or you can do more damage, or you can attack in multiple directions. There's lots of other things that you can do. So when you find a specific talent or a saddle that you like, you want to make sure that you hold on to those, because as you go through the dungeon, there's going to be a lot of traps. There'll be enemies that make you hungry. As you see that on the left corner, as I'm changing jobs here, 100 of 100, that is your hunger meter. You can build that up to 200 depending on the type of job class that you use and the items that you use, because if you fill it at 100, then it goes up. Your blue is your SP. Those are your magic. When you move around, you will gain more SP, or you can use ethers and elixirs to kind of bring that up, and then your HP, when your HP runs out, you die. If your HP runs out for the character that you're with, they will be resurrected if you get to a new floor, assuming that you get there. But as I said, if you have a saddle or a talon that you like, you want to be able to hold on to that for a little bit, and then you can take it into the forge later when you unlock it into the game to add it to your saddle. Just keep in mind that hone that's next to your attack, sometimes you can only upgrade talons or saddles so much. If it gets to that maximum number, it can't be upgraded anymore. If you do have any ones that you don't want to burn, throw them into your storage and save them from later, because what you want to have is Irma's talons at the end of the game and Vlog's saddle. That gives you 90 chances to hone something. So I think I had plus 66 at the end of my talon and plus 50 on the saddle, with 7 slots and 6 respectively. So the ones in the saddle, I could, not be stunned or not be blinded, or other stuff like that. The other ones, I got more XP. I didn't get as hungry as I moved around. Attacked in multiple directions. A lot of stuff that works. And then when you get to the very, very, very end, I didn't do all the random dungeons, because there's an insatiable hunger that goes to an infinite amount that allows you to get the Vlog's saddle and Irma's talons. That's where you want to get them after you do the Scarecrow's initial mission. When you get his memory, that's your end game, where you can find those. Even on the first floor you can find them. Then you want to zoom out once you get the ones that have the proper amount of spaces you need, and then you can go ahead and pretty much finish the rest of the game, and then use your polishing cream or anything else to up your talons and saddles, and that's the way it is. So, as I've said, what I've used besides those is an appraiser's collar. So rather than needing to bring glasses and figuring out whether an item is cursed or whether I need to be identified, every time I pick up something, it automatically identifies it. Have that in your inventory as well. And then also in this Insatiable Hunger dungeon, where you got the talons and the saddle, you can also get a ribbon collar that allows it to make sure that anytime you get hit by a status effect, it gets automatically nulled. And if you have that, you don't need to put any of that stuff on your saddle. So there'll be more stuff that you can change in game, but basically your setup again is the Chocobo. You have your computer character or the second player character that can kind of heal you, whatever else you want. They have all sorts of skills. You can bring literally anyone you fight in the game with you as your partner once you get enough XP for them. Yes, even bosses, Ifrit, Shiva, Rama, all of them, they can join you as well. So that's pretty cool. And they have big area of effect attacks that they can use. I'm assuming it's going to take up their whole SP bar. But it's pretty cool. You can change jobs on the fly once you get to a rest point. The big portion of the game, once you get to the main 5-6 dungeons and then you finish the game, is memories in between. You hold the L1 and R1 button when you're talking to some people in town. They're going to forget their memories as that's part of the story. So then you'll go in. Sometimes you'll be locked to a certain level or a certain job, and you have to navigate using only the equipment that's available to you on that floor throughout the dungeon. There'll be certain effects where you'll always be hungry, you'll be losing HP, you'll not be able to gain any SP. Those were the coolest dungeons in the game, and I thought that there should have been probably more of that, but as it is, for the length of this game, it took me about 45 hours to get through the initial full playthrough of this game. So it's already quite long. And for a $40 price tag, if you get 40 some plus hours, that's probably already pretty good. But I did have some gripes with it. Okay, so the gameplay and everything else, I can't say perfect, but there really isn't anything wrong with it. You take a turn, like I said, you see it across the grid, it's pretty self-explanatory. The items that you can use to help you, pretty self-explanatory. There's a specific boss in Alexander that will insta-kill you that you cannot avoid if you don't bring a Phoenix down or anything else with you to bring you back. You got to do the whole dungeon again. That kind of sucks. You don't really know until it happens to you the first time. But just keep away from those traps and you should be fine. The thing that really grated on me in this game is the music. It's not very good at all. It's quite repetitive, and especially when you're in town trying to go through all the things you need to change in the stops, get your inventory set up for the next dungeon slop. I had to pretty much mute my speakers because I couldn't take it anymore. The same thing just plays over and over and over and over, and it doesn't have enough of a elongated time before it goes to it again, and it got quite grating on the ears, almost like nails to the chalkboard. You don't want to have that, especially in a Final Fantasy game when you think you're going to have good music. I'm not expecting this to be a 4K masterpiece when it's a port over from a Wii title from PS4 to Switch, so the graphics are what they are and the gameplay is what it is, and I'm totally fine with that. But the music is a little bit grating. Some of the stuff in the story, honestly, you can't give two F's about. It's nothing to write home about. You really only care about the gameplay, which is fine. So when you think about that as a $40 game, probably not worth the entire experience there. It is the gameplay, and that's what stands out the most. That's the most important part. But the story, who cares about the story? The music's pretty bland, and it hurts your ears at some point. Can I recommend this game? Yeah, if you can get it for 20 bucks, absolutely. It's definitely worth a playthrough, and 45 hours is a great time. But in comparison to, let me throw it to you like this before I close out the video. In Chocobo's Dungeon 2, yes, it has digitized graphics, but I honestly prefer that style from 1998 on the PS1 than I do for this Wii port over for the PS4 and Switch. I think it actually looks better. I like the spell animations and everything else better in that game from 98 than I do on this. And I know this isn't a big budget title, but that's almost inexcusable. And then I played the Tornico games, the first one on Super Nintendo that was only in Japanese because I saw Mike Matei from Cinemassacre play it. So I want to check this one out. And then I did have World of Tornico, which is one that was released in 2000. And I like that game because it's Dragon Warrior based, and there's certain things I like about that even more than this. I would say, honestly, between a Chocobo's Dungeon 2 and the World of Tornico in 2000 on PS1 that didn't review all that well, I think people were giving it a 2.5, 3 out of 10. I would say that those games are both in Chocobo's Dungeon 2 and the Super Nintendo release for Tornico are better than this one. Even though this has a buddy mechanic and a job chain system and all that stuff, which is really cool. I could give this game a soft 6. And I think that's probably high, but that's just off the gameplay alone. But what do you think about it? Because I think it's a good $20 game. You're going to have fun with it. I wouldn't pay full price, although I did enjoy it. You just got to know what the expectations are going in. Gameplay's king, and if you played procedurally random generated dungeon stuff before, I think you will like it. Let me know what you think. We'll talk soon.